So, welcome everyone. I am very excited to have Mark Manderson with us today. He's out of Newport Beach, California, and he has a bit of a journey to share with us. And he is the CEO and owner of Pacific Shores Recovery. So, he's got a lot of wisdom and experience to share. And so, for those of you, no matter where you are on this journey, you will have a takeaway from today. So, welcome, Mark.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here and hopefully be used for something beautiful to answer some questions that someone on the other end might be just thinking, I wish someone would just answer this question. And all of a sudden, there it is, it appears.
Right. I love how that happens, actually. So if you would share with us your 8-year-old story.
Oh, okay. So when I was 8, the story is 8 years old. No, so actually, I had a good childhood. But there were bits and pieces that were missing and kind of disappeared. And I didn't know anything until college, once I really jumped headfirst into therapy to try to find out why I was so depressed and why life was so messed up. I'm from Orange County, California, where it's summer waves. I mean, it's beautiful. So I couldn't figure it out. I was supposed to be happy. And I had no idea what repressed memories were. And so during some EMDR therapy, which is one of the modalities we do here, I went through and all of a sudden I'm transported back. I'm 8 years old. And all I remember, I don't remember if it's summer or winter. I don't know where I was coming from. I just remember I'm walking into my room and my aunt was living with us at the time. And I had bunk beds in my room. So I got the fun, outspoken aunt. She was on the top bunk. I was bottom bunk, like coolest bunkie ever. But so I just intuitively, I think kids can pick up on emotions and just kind of feelings so quickly. And I remember something was off. And I see my aunt lying on the floor. And as I'm walking to her, I just remember feeling the crunching of pills underneath my feet. And I remember reaching out, I start shaking her, and I know something's wrong, but I have no idea the level of what it is at that age. And so I yell for my mom, and my mom comes in and ends up reviving her, thankfully. But we learned it was a drug overdose. I had no idea. And so it was me and my sister in the next room, and then my mom. And because of what happened, she told my aunt, she said, "Sis, I love you, but I can't have you stay here. I had one rule. You broke the rule. My kids could have taken some of those pills. I love you. I'll never withhold the love, but you can't stay here." And so found her a room for rent a few towns over, and then same thing happened a few months later. But there was nobody there, no 8-year-old boy there to yell for mom to save her, and she actually passed.
Yeah.
So I didn't even know this until college, and so I'm talking to my mom and going, "How weird! Like I made this thing up. It's crazy." She goes, "Don't you remember that, sweetie?" And so she starts recanting this memory that I thought I just made up. And so that started to open up a lot of things that I had repressed. And so interestingly enough, I never touched drugs. I was terrified of drugs because it took my aunt. But I had harbored so much pain, and later would find out I got really good at stuffing. So my coping mechanism was I got to have the fake smile to let everybody know how great life is, while I was silently dying inside. Like I felt alone even when I was with people that I knew loved me and I loved them.
Yeah.
And so it got so dark. It wasn't that I wanted to end it all, but I didn't know how to keep living in the pain. And so I really just started asking questions. And that was where there was so much fear, and I couldn't even identify where it was coming from. And I don't think fear prevents death. I think it prevents life. And,
Totally with you.
And as I started to ask questions and went through a ton of therapy, there was still this part that was missing. And I remember, and so I was born and raised in a Christian household, which I'm so grateful for. But I remember asking, I'm like, okay, I think I'm this terrible mess up. I keep making these poor choices, getting all these consequences, but somehow telling myself like it's okay because I'm not doing drugs. Which is a huge farce. I think we're all addicted to something that sedates us and is a coping mechanism. But I remember hearing this. Someone said, "Why don't you ask God, who do you say I am?" Oh, okay. And then all the lies and the guilt and the shame that I had been carrying, and it wasn't like a instant change. It was kind of
Mm-hmm.
like slowly being revealed over some time. And that's when I really started to understand that I created my perception of reality by all the memories I had in the past and continued to keep them with me.
Uh-huh.
And so that was where about 2003 is when I started coming in and wanting to give back and help other people and just better understand
Mm-hmm.
why human beings do what they do when they self-sabotage and create these internal prisons.
Mm-hmm.
And I started learning a lot. I started seeing the same thing with just about every single person, is that there was pain underneath. And it was
Yeah.
an attempt to sedate the pain, not wanting to drink or to use. And I thought, well, could we have done anything different to save my aunt? And I'm a believer that what happened had to have happened, because if it could have happened any other way, it would have. And
Mm-hmm.
so as I start reconciling the past and going, okay, well, what can I pull from this? And I thought, well, what if I could learn from this so no other 8-year-old boy has to go through this, and to
Mm-hmm.
understand that it's not his fault. There's nothing he could have done, but to
Mm-hmm.
better understand. And as I started doing that, I started learning like this is actually treatable. I had no idea there was so much information out there that wasn't necessarily true. And so as we just started getting educated, started helping people, started at a basic level. This was even before there was intensive outpatient. It was inpatient. I thought you're cured and then you go home. And we saw so many
Right.
people struggling. And so
Yeah.
just kind of reverse engineer to find out where the gaps were and then helping and putting principles in. And as I got more educated on it, I realized that a lot of even really good treatment programs, they look at the disease, if you look at that model, or the actual behavior or actions of using, and really never get to the core of why that started in the first place. And so
Right.
maybe a person gets dry, aka clean and sober, but then they
Mm-hmm.
start sedating other ways. And so
Mm-hmm.
by asking the question, how do we help them re-identify who they are and really do the work to understand that it's these stories and these thoughts that we continue to tell ourselves that create this, and how to truly become free. And
Mm-hmm.
as we started doing that, an organic byproduct is they didn't want to sedate in life anymore. Life was getting way too good, and they were actually learning how to sit in the emotions. I call it the pit of pain. Actually, we were talking
Mm-hmm.
about it before.
Mm-hmm.
I gave a TED talk on this, but of
Mm-hmm.
learning how not to suffer, but to sit in there, to understand it's not against me, it's for me. It's a protective mechanism. When I learned to sit in
Mm-hmm.
the different ethos of emotions, it becomes a
Mm-hmm.
beautiful relationship, and I don't have to suppress anymore. And
Mm-hmm.
so, I mean, there's a lot more to it, but that's kind of my story of how I got into this, and how we reverse engineered of how to really get the results.
Yeah. And so can you say a little bit more about the notion that it's I'm here to serve you?
What do you mean by that?
The pain.
Oh, yeah,
So
yeah.
Mhm.
So pain can either become your prison or your purpose. And so if I continue to try to stuff or sedate my pain, it will
Mhm.
continue to arrive until I learn the lesson.
Mhm.
And I'm a really slow learner. Most people are actually, but
Yeah, they
I'm
are.
like really slow. And then I rationalize, well, I'm not that bad because I'm not doing what that guy is doing. And
Mhm.
then you rationalize the pain, and we're all on our journey just trying to figure out, how do I be the best being for me, not for other people? Because
Mhm.
again, when I say other people, I put the mask on. So
Mhm.
of understanding that ignored pain becomes sedation.
Mhm.
Explored pain leads to meaning, and then pain integrated becomes the mission. So when I
Mhm.
learned to actually have a relationship, so a loving relationship, and this is the part, so when I say pain, it shows up differently for different people. For me, it was depression. I had become suicidal. I got really dark for a while in my life. And when I tried to stuff or sedate or ignore, it's so I'm a father of two kids. They're teenagers now, but when they were young, and I'd be in the middle of a conversation and they go, "Dad, Dad," and they're pulling on the pants, "Dad, Dad." I don't know if you guys have a similar experience, but when I would be like, "Shh, Dad's talking, not now," they would go louder, "Dad, Dad," and like continue until I go, hold on a second. What's up, buddy? Can we play after this? I'm like, oh, my son or my daughter, they just wanted my attention. And
Yeah.
the more I ignored them or suppressed them, the
Mhm.
louder they got, and the more animated they got. And it was really distracting. When I would
Mhm.
actually lean in and find out what the unmet need is, they would tell me, and I would say, absolutely. And all of a sudden, they feel connected to me. They're not fighting for my attention. And I think pain or depression or anxiety or whatever you want to label or diagnose it as has a very similar relationship. And so one of the things that we do is we actually teach people how to not label different emotions as good or bad, but as all part of the process and the spectrum. And as we understand that, we can learn to actually, the first part is acknowledging it. Second part is learning how to be uncomfortable in it. And then eventually we lead ourselves to, I actually enjoy when this emotion shows up now because I'm not tied to the outcome. It's part of just being present with it because there's always an unmet need. It's there to protect.
Well, and it's there to get our attention and signal something to us. And so that's true for all humans. So, our show is geared towards the family members or friends who love someone who's dealing with addiction, but it's true on both sides of the aisle. And, on our side of the aisle, we tend to get caught up in trying to fix them, change them, control them. We get super angry. We get super frustrated. We do all these things that we think are going to get the result that we want. And that's our pain. And so speak a little bit about, as a mom or a dad or a family member that is just like ill-prepared to handle when somebody shows up using to suppress pain. How do we navigate?
Yeah, well, and that's the part. I remember the first time I heard this, and it resonated so deeply with me. And I actually use it all the time now because it's a part of me. But it's drugs destroyed my life, and I wasn't even the one using them. I remember first time I heard that, it took me back to being 8. And so many parents I speak with, when I share that with them, they say, "Oh my gosh, I have never identified more with this statement. Wow." And so as we explore that, we tend to think I have to have control over a situation, a person, either a adult child, a young child, a spouse, a parent. And the part that's so difficult, and this is what creates the conflict, is we don't have control. It's an illusion. And so much of us, and this is, I'm hoping they're going to stick with it because this might trigger a few people first, but I promise we'll get to the payoff. But so much of it is our own insecurities because we think if we're parents, what did I do wrong? If we're a spouse, how could I have been a better spouse? What did I do wrong? What part is my fault? And we can apply that anywhere. And really that's the ego just wanting to not get hurt. And we make it about us as opposed to, and this is the part that's unpopular, but it helps lead to the freedom, is how do I love them as they are and not be the one that says, you should stop using drugs or alcohol.
Yeah. And I want to give an exclamation point to that. And would you say that again? Because I think that statement is so powerful. And if people listening can grab a hold of that one statement, it can change the trajectory of your experience. So if you would, Mark.
And this is the part that's so difficult, and you gotta walk through. It's like when you're in the middle of a hell, don't stop in hell. You got to keep going through. So what we tell people is, if I can learn how to be okay with my loved one showing up as they are, there's a wonderful book by Byron Katie called Loving What Is.
It's brilliant.
It's phenomenal of going, oh, I want them to stop so I can be the person I think I need to be with them, as opposed to, how do I love the person but hate the addiction? And that's the part that's so tough, is because people tend to confuse the two and enmesh them together. And so that's where people start withholding love and setting ultimatums versus boundaries or interventions. And there's certain ways to do it. But when I can love the person regardless if they want to choose to keep using or not, I become free and no longer tied to the outcome. And now I can show up from a total, I wouldn't say perfect, but close to perfect place of just pure love.
Yeah.
And that's what heals.
Yeah. And so what I've had is parents that will say, well, yeah, but, we're talking about life or death.
And so that is where, I just spoke to a mom last week who it had been in and out, off and on. And then the mother's intuition said, I need to drive to Portland and just show up and knock on the door. And said, I love you so much. I am not going to give up on you. You're coming with me. Now, had she done it maybe a month earlier, I don't think it would have worked out the way it did. But the way it worked out was he was ready. When she showed up, he said, I don't know how you got here, Mom, but I've been wanting this. And
Mm,
so that's the part that there's no perfect answer. I think we tend to think in a black and white world of just tell
yeah.
me the answer and I'll do it. And it works out 100% of the time. And it's like, there's no guarantees in life. Like I
Hmm.
look at my aunt and it's like she's gone. She was taken way too early from us. So I can
Hmm.
either look at the pain story and say it's a tragedy, it shouldn't have happened,
Hmm.
as part of the reconciliation of saying, wait, had that not happened, I would not have built this. That's gone on to help thousands and thousands of individuals and families.
Right.
So was that supposed to happen to be able to spread the word? I don't know. The brain wants to rationalize certain things. And what I've learned
Hmm.
is that story that I attach and that meaning to that provides so much more value to me in life
Hmm.
than does, oh my gosh, it was my mom's fault. It was my fault. Had I been a better boy, like all the stuff that we want to do. Again, it's the ego just trying not to get hurt versus I'm going to love unconditionally. And even if I make mistakes, I'm going to make mistakes from a place of love and the best intention to let them know I am here.
Hmm. Yeah. And I think this is really so tricky in terms of, like towards the end of my son's addiction, he was addicted to fentanyl. And when I found that out, obviously the stakes go higher. And actually, what I did, one of the things that I did do was I pulled Byron Katie's book off the bookshelf. And I pulled Eckhart Tolle's book off the bookshelf. And I signed up for a program that would help me rewire how I was thinking about this, all while I understood that he may not survive this. And then for me, what was really helpful was to take it to a higher level of I don't begin to know what his life's journey or his life's purpose is for. And I can guarantee that if he does pass away, I will make sure that his life was in service of a bigger purpose.
hmm It's one of the most difficult things, especially as parents, is when I
Hmm.
can actually psychologically link the mind and the heart. And this is actually an exercise I still do with the clients. But when I can actually go through a emotional and mental death of my child, it
Hmm.
allows me to love so much more freely.
Hmm.
And so I was given a gift at the time. I didn't see it. My daughter, she's my firstborn. She 3 days old. We had her at home, and I woke up to my wife. I thought she was being murdered. She was screaming a curdle scream I'd never heard in our entire marriage. And she just kept yelling, she's not breathing, she's not breathing. And I
Oh, well.
remember she sleeps on the right. The bassinet was on the side of her. So everything was slow motion. Just remember looking up, looking at her. She's freaking out. So I go over and I look, and there's my 3 day old baby, purple in the face, not breathing.
Right.
I don't know how I remembered to do this, but the instinct was I picked her up, turned her over, 3 hits of the baby Heimlich, and she vomited and started breathing again.
Wow.
We called 911, rushed to the hospital. They send us to a pediatric unit, another town over. And we're there for, I don't know, 6 or 7 hours. They're running tests, they're doing x-rays, like doing everything. And no one can give us an answer. And I remember sitting there, I'm just like, I don't understand this. And a nurse comes over and she said, we're doing everything we can. We don't even know if she's going to make it through the night, but just know we're going to do our best. I didn't hear anything else other than she may not make it through the night. My wife starts freaking out. I start freaking out. And fortunately, I had someone in my life I was able to call that wasn't emotionally involved, but was able
Hmm.
to be a cooler head.
Hmm.
And what he said to me is he said, Mark, first of all, he said, is that your child? Do you own her? And I just kind of like, oh, no, this beautiful child has been given to me to steward over,
Hmm.
whether it's 3 days or 30 plus years,
Hmm.
whatever it ends up being. I'm like, no, I just need to be here for her. And
Hmm.
this peace came over. And
Hmm.
that was the
Wow.
first time I ever was able to step into this may be the final seconds I get with my daughter,
Hmm.
but I want to love and not be sitting in fear or anger or resentment and just have this pure place of love. And when I
Hmm.
walked back in, my wife saw me and she got calm.
Hmm.
And within an hour or two, my wife looks over, props my little child up, and now she's able to start holding down all the foods. She still has it to this day. If she's sick, she can't go flat. It's some
Hmm.
disorder.
Hmm.
But the reason why I share that story is because it allows me to love so much deeper and pure and more present when I'm not tied to, I have to have them there throughout everything and it has to work out the way I need it to.
Yeah.
And it's so mind-boggling of the two truths at the same time of, I definitely want my kids to outlive me and to be so happy and find peace and fulfillment. But at the same time, I got to know that even though if that doesn't happen, I want to be here and be present. And for some reason, when I love with an open hand, it's so much more freeing than trying to hold on to something and dictate how I think it should be.
Yeah. That's a powerful story.
Yeah, well, it's allowed me to better understand a lot of the families that come in that say, you don't know what it's like to possibly lose a child. And I say, not the way in your family and that you're sharing, I will never know. But I kind of have an idea, and here's what I've learned. And for some reason, when we can share our pain with other people, it allows us to connect so fast and to find that peace. And then all of a sudden, again, we're not tied to the outcome and we can be fully present because we have had clients come through our program and we've got such an amazing team. And the client will just say, I don't want this, I'm leaving. And we say, we're not a lockdown facility. We say, you know what? We know what the possibility is out there. We'll be praying for you. We're going to hope for the best. Our door is open. We're here when you're ready. And sometimes they'll leave and months later, you get a phone call saying they're in a different place. And you're like, and of course the humanistic side, what could I have done different? How? But for every story, there's few of those, but every story like that, there's so many stories of people completely changing from the inside out and literally ending that generational curse and saying, this dies with me. I'm going to raise my family with better understanding and more knowledge than my family had. And they did the best they could. And then we see generations, like literally about 3 months ago, a woman that came through our program came back with her daughter. She said, I haven't seen her in 3 years. She is now sober because I got sober and we're reunited. Thank you.
Wow.
And I'm like, that's why we do this. Because once mom started living differently and showing the example, daughter said, okay, I'm ready. So sometimes you have no idea who's watching.
Oh, lots of times we have no idea who's watching. It's really amazing. And every once in a while, we will get to hear these stories of, heal and rise. And so I'm wondering about the parents in particular that get just stuck in the anger and the frustration of the story that they have, that they should be fixing it. They should be changing it. They should be controlling it. What's the first step from your side of the experience with a parent like that?
Allowing yourself to actually feel it all. A lot of people are like, oh, I shouldn't be angry. Well, why not? If you are, experience it. Now, the only thing I would say is don't go to a place where there's going to be consequences for dispelling that anger, where you're going to regret something that you said. But it can be simple. We teach family of, if you're angry, there's a lot of different modalities you can use. But one of them that some of the families love is when you get pissed off, go into your bedroom, grab your pillow, and you just unload. And you can go for the jugular when they're not there. You can say all the hatred that you have at that moment, all the resentments, how much more difficult you're. You just let it out. And what it does is it allows the brain to process, to say, oh, hey, this really actually matters. I think we cut things off way too quick because how we should or shouldn't feel. And when we label emotions, now we're looking at good versus bad, as opposed to all emotions are healthy. They're signals, and there's an unmet need underneath. Typically that unmet need, if you're talking about anger, resentment, is I'm hurt. I am hurting and I don't know how to be hurt, sitting in the pit of pain of going, I don't know how it's going to work out. And it's scary and it's messed up. And just being able to acknowledge that part, that little child, if you will, of us, that's just saying, I'm hurting and I'm scared. Yeah, I hear that. So that would be the first step, is to actually allow yourself to feel without any guilt or shame or labeling, I shouldn't be this way.
Yeah. And so the feeling part, mission critical. It's the first thing I have in my book is Permission to Feel, and which is a book actually that's brilliant.
I like that title.
Yeah, and I work with a lot of business owners, CEOs, executives, Some of them have feeling pillows, So the feeling part, absolutely. And then I think partly is for some people is understanding that you drop through the anger part and you drop to sadness and allowing it to be, but also allowing it to move out of you. Like there's a process for releasing it. And then getting clear about asking more powerful questions, I think. A little bit like your reframing of the story of your aunt. And you came to a place where you were able to see the gifts and opportunities embedded in that experience for you. And now you live a life of service because of her. So could you say a little bit more about that?
Yeah, well, our life is directly based on the quality of questions we ask ourselves. Like if I ask myself, and this was my leading question for a lot of high school and college was, why am I such a failure? And so the brain goes, I'm going to have to bring all this data to back this up as absolute truth. And the brain's brilliant. It will bring stuff up from like 5th grade. I remember I was Bob Cratchit, but I wanted to be Tiny Tim. So instead of the brain going, hey, you were in a play in 7th grade, it went, you didn't get Tiny Tim. You're a failure. You suck. And so the brain, and even makes stuff up, but it starts bringing all this data, and then we actually rationalize and justify. See, I just proved my own thought process. And so I love you said that, just by asking different questions, it starts allowing us to focus just a little bit differently. So one of the questions when I'm actually feeling the emotion. So for me, my emotional gravity is depression. Don't know why, chemical imbalance, whatever you want to call it. I used to hate it, and then I struggled with it, and now I accept it and go, okay. When you need some love depression, by the way, my depression's name is Hal. Go into that story later.
Great, I love it.
But hey, Hal, what are you needing from me? I just need to know that I still have a seat at the table, that you still love me just as much as you love and friendship and happiness and laughter. It's like, yeah, I do. And when I can truly identify that, I'm able to enjoy all those different emotions. So the questions, the quality of the questions we ask ourselves, and then the meaning we attach to it, that's how we start to kind of reclaim the stories that before we thought we were victims of, just by rephrasing, asking different questions, attaching different meaning. Like my aunt, oh my gosh, this is terrible. Our family's messed up. We didn't. Okay, there's truth there. But to be able to hold this other truth at the same time to say, yeah, but she brought so much fun into our life while she lived with us. It was probably one of the better times of our lives being little kids with Aunt Steffi living with us. But then also it shaped what I've been doing for the last quarter of a century. I mean, you talk about impact. Holy cow.
Yeah. I heard recently, I was listening to, I think it was Dan Martell. He was talking about being in Peru, and the coach that he was with, he just basically said, what's the meaning of life? We have to go to Peru to do this. But the guy said, our purpose sits right beside our biggest pain. And I thought, wow, isn't that a brilliant way to frame it? Because that is absolutely true for me.
And then when we find that, and we begin the journey of doing the work, we become the person we were seeking and looking for at that time to come back and save ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And so could you say just a little bit about, because we talk a lot about the work, you got to do the work. And for some people are like, what the heck is the work?
Well, that's the secret sauce. We just can't say it. Yeah, so first thing is there's no one modality where it's like, that's the work and you do that and you get 100%. And if you don't, you fail. It's literally, we're doing some of the work right now by having a conversation of what else could this mean, by asking different questions. One of the questions I love asking myself is when I'm experiencing a heavy emotion, I'll just ask it, what is it you're needing from me right now? Before I would diagnose and label and be so either ashamed of it or angry at it, and I would stuff as opposed to, well, what is it you're needing from me? And there's an unmet need that starts to surface once it's safe that says, I just need to know you love me, or I just need to know we're safe. And especially as a guy, it's like, this is the kind of work that was so weird. It's just kind of like, suck it up, just go.
Right.
And I did that for a while and put on the fake smile where everything was good.
Yeah.
I was miserable. And I'm like, I'd rather look like an over emotional individual and really have true peace and fulfillment the majority of the time. I haven't figured out 100% yet. Then try to have it look like it's all together. So just showing up messy.
Yeah.
There's days where I'll come to work Like 99% of the time when they ask, I'm like, it's a great day. And it truly is. But there's times where I'm like, I'm really struggling today. It sucks. When we have new employees come in and they hit me on one of those days, they're kind of like, whoa, what? Like, yeah, it's okay to have a crappy day. Guess what? Odds are, because I have a 100% track record, I'm going to go to sleep. I'm going to wake up again tomorrow. And if I do, I get a new reset. And so I used to do it daily. And then someone said, well, why do you wait 24 hours? Why don't you reset now? I'm like, you can do that?
Yeah.
So it's always a learning process.
Right.
So some of the work, very basic, but I wrote a book called The Recovery Way, and it goes into what I call the 5 foundational freedoms. So, probably a decade ago, as I started calling to follow up for 5 years, 10 years, and just seeing how some of our clients are doing, I noticed a lot of clients were in around the same time. And they had the same therapist and the same case manager, but one, several years out, was flourishing. They started a family and married, and they were in love with life. They started business. They were living the American dream. And the other person was at another treatment center again. I'm like, I don't get it. And as I started just kind of getting to see behind the scenes of the patterns, as opposed to most people just see that one person, as I could see thousands of case studies, it's kind of like, oh my gosh, what were you doing? And what were you not doing? What were you doing? And what were you not doing? And that was where I started seeing a pattern of what I call the 5 foundational freedoms. And so many people think there's going to be these huge moments where you do just this crazy work, and like you got to go to Peru and find a Sherpa to take you to the top of the mountain to say this brilliant thing. It's like, well, that's one way to do it. But even when you go to Peru, you're still there.
You're right.
Follow your
No matter where you go, you're there.
Exactly. And so as I started looking, I started seeing the ones that were doing really well had a fitness or health component. And I started looking at the frameworks. I'm like, okay, well, this guy did CrossFit, but this girl does yoga. This girl just goes for walks. So it wasn't particularly like you got to do CrossFit or nothing else. It's movement. And then so I started researching the science behind it, and that's how we released the I call it the feel-good chemicals in the brain of serotonin and oxytocin, different things. It comes from movement and actually challenging your body. This is one of the best pharmacies in the world. We can make so many things. And so I found out these people are moving or sweating or doing something every single morning or day, some in the night, but I'd say probably like 90% were in the morning. And what it was like a brain chemistry, like a reset. And now all of a sudden they start to feel a little bit better. And what I noticed is when you feel better, you tend to make better decisions. And so I thought, oh gosh, okay, so there's this fitness component. That's interesting. And then another one, because we have all walks of faith come through our program, but there is a faith standpoint, spirituality, not seeing themselves as the center of the universe, but being a part of something much greater and having this spiritual connection of learning how to slow down and actually, some call it prayer, some call it meditation, but of how to actually connect to something other than themselves and to experience that love and peace. And I thought, well, that's kind of cool. And the people over here were like, I don't have time for that crap. And then started noticing family and friends, which is one of the other foundations of community. One of the sayings we have is addiction is isolation, therefore recovery is community. And those people that invest every day of just cultivating relationships, of speaking openly about where they are in their relationships, and it doesn't have to be intimate, it can be friendship, all different things. We started finding those little daily singles over here, cultivating relationships, having a community. We're communal-based mammals, if you will, versus those over here that weren't. They were isolating. And then money makes the world go round. So we found people over here were continually learning and growing, whether it's a trade that they're fascinated with or back into art or doing something, where over here, it wasn't. And so those are the 4 things that started to become really apparent. And for a while, we just stuck with that. But as we started really doing more of, you were saying, the work, I noticed the 5th foundation that everything else sits on, and it's feelings. And most people were never taught emotional literacy. And so as individuals learn how to feel, we have a saying here, you got to feel to heal. And as they learn how to feel and to give all their emotions a voice and not label or diagnose healthy, unhealthy, good, bad, but to learn how to do that, I do a drawing where it looks like a picture, and feelings are in the middle, and then the frame are the other 4 foundational freedoms. And then it's like when you can expand and it gets bigger and bigger. And as you do just a little bit of work each day, you start getting so much more in tune with who we really are at the core for us, not for other people.
Right, right. Yes. And so for our audience, every single one of the things that Mark just said real is for us also.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
These are all two-way streets.
So I'm wondering, because this is something that I've thought about, is addiction is so prevalent, and not just in terms of drugs and alcohol, but across so many areas. Does it feel to you like it's the great calling to wake up? Almost like, you need pain. And I think of pain as cracking you wide open. And in that cracking, you have the opportunity to do the work and rise in terms of your own understanding, maturity, consciousness, and all of those things. So I think about addiction through the lens of it's the great cracking globally.
I got you. Like the divine hands come down and start just shaking everybody of like, are you ready for the change? So yeah, in pain, it typically takes pain and consequences to change behavior. And so there's two ways to go about it. And we debate this quite openly and often. Is suffering a mandatory part of life? A lot of people say yes. Now, once you suffer enough and you make the change, do you need to go back to suffering, or can you learn to quiet the voice? Because the way I heard it is, it always starts with the whisper, but we ignore the whisper, so that's when the wrecking ball comes.
Right.
So by wrecking ball first, and I think that's part of immaturity, and we learn as we get a little bit more mature in this life. But as we start to learn now, and one of the greatest hacks is hiring other people to teach you the suffering lesson so you don't have to suffer. And so that's a lot of the work we do here. I mean, we do interventions as well, and all that is kind of a false bottom of suffering to get a change in behavior so the person can start doing the work to heal. Because I hear clients say all this, they say this quite often. They'll say, I had no idea rock bottom had a basement. and it does.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And so by understanding that, that's how we start to get change. So in the start, it's suffering from ourselves. But as we start getting more repetitions and we start getting open to learning from other people and to quiet, I think a lot of the suffering goes away in my experience and with clients here. And it becomes more of intuitiveness and changing the behavior before you get to the part where there's consequences and pain that are too severe.
Yeah. Yes. And so, from the other side of the aisle, relative to being a mom or a dad or somebody who loves someone, is I think some of us get to the point where this is just too damn hard. Like the suffering of witnessing somebody suffer, it's heartbreaking. And that's where I talk about kind of the cracking open is, for me, it elevated the question. Like, do I need to be in his addiction with him? And I was like, and usually I'll ask myself a question and I know the answer as I'm asking it. And I'm like, and no, of course not. And so I'm thinking about what you said, Mark, in terms of kind of like labeling your emotions or labeling this part of yourself. That's what, as humans, we can do that. We can separate ourselves from the thing, and then we can observe it. And then we can figure out, like, what do I want to do with this? Who do I want to be in this moment? Do I want to continue to choose suffering? Do I want to continue to choose anger? And at what point do I get to the point where I'm like, I'm just sick and tired of being angry. I'm just sick and tired of suffering. And so there's a pathway out.
I love that you use the term being an observer. And that's one thing I think we miss so often, is because when we're in the middle of it, it feels so heavy. And it's just excruciatingly heavy. And to be able to, and we actually, this is part of what we've done in both our program for the clients, but also the family program, is it's a Gestalt theory, but of actually sitting down and saying, I can feel the weight. Now you physically get up and you look at yourself. And now you can talk to yourself where that version of you has all the weight. And that's where you can go ahead and say, what is it that you're needing from me? What are you wanting me to know? And not always, but so often, the parent or the loved one just wants forgiveness. And so we seek from the outside of something we don't know how to give ourselves. And doing the simple exercise like that and actually going, I forgive you. You've done the best and you've navigated this wonderfully messy.
Mhm.
And I forgive you for anything that you've been holding on to.
Mhm.
And then just being there. And sometimes that's all that we've been wanting is all the guilt and shame we have carried and misplaced
Yeah.
on ourselves,
Mhm.
knowing that I forgive me for either doing or not doing what I think I should have or shouldn't have done.
Mhm.
And to be able to just go ahead and reconcile that. And now it's when I don't have to carry that around, it's like, okay, how does that feel? Now it's like, oh, I feel so much lighter. I feel so
Mhm.
much free. Now, from this version of me, how do I want to love my son, my daughter, my husband, my wife, regardless of how they are? Because who am I to say they need to show up how I want to see them in this world? And
Mhm.
that's how we start to become free
Mhm.
of the attachment of outcomes. And I
Mhm.
don't know why it's this way, but when you don't need something, you find it everywhere.
Mhm.
But when you say you need it, like
Mhm.
take breathing. I don't think one time you have thought, oh, I got to take a deep breath. Oh, I just almost, the oxygen is abundant. We can
Mhm.
breathe a little, a lot. We didn't have to fight for it once. But when you get into a place where there's very minimal oxygen, you are fighting for everything because of that scarcity. And I
Mhm.
think it's the same way when it comes to love. We think love is finite, but it's not.
Right. Right. Yeah. And so for people to really be paying attention to their bodies, and their minds, and this is the self-awareness part, that's a big beginning to unlock uh, where we have suffered and understanding how to kind of turn that key. So we're coming up against the end of our time, which darn. Um,
I've loved this. Thank you, by the way.
this has been a great conversation, and I just want to say how much I appreciate your heart, and your curiosity and your servant's being. I was going to go, servant's heart, but doesn't quite capture you. You are a being of service, and so if anybody wants to reach out to you, how might they do that?
So there's a few ways. Probably the easiest is we're on social media.
Mhm.
My handle on Instagram is at Mark C. Manderson. And then one of the things is so we do master classes, and it's not just for families, not just for people in recovery, but it's just how to live so much more free, if you will. And we've been
Great.
doing them for a while, and we package them up. And when I do podcasts like this, if they DM me and just DM masterclass, it's a gift for free. And I think we're up
Mhm.
to like 15 now. But one of them that I definitely want to make sure your viewers get is I call it the parenting pyramid, and it's actually the different aspects of parenting and the different focused areas of what we do and
Mhm.
how we miss one of the main parts. But as we start, and I break it down in the masterclass, as we break it down, it really cracks open of really of just learning how to be present.
Mhm.
And when we are that way, the other things start to take care of themselves because
Mhm.
we're so outcome driven or time and urgency and
Right.
all these different things. So yeah, if they want to go to Instagram at Mark C. Manderson, just DM me masterclass. I'll know that they saw it from this podcast, and I'll just go ahead and shoot them the link.
Super, super. There's so many other areas we could go into, and I'm sorry that we have to cut this short. And again, remind us about the book.
Oh yeah, yeah. Thank you. So the book is called The Recovery Way by Mark
Hmm.
Manderson. You can
Hmm.
find it on Amazon. There's a Audible version, and there's a workbook that goes with it too. But yeah, it's a very simple read. I initially wrote it for myself just to help with all the stuff I'd been learning over the decades, put it
Hmm.
together, and then
Hmm.
a couple people read it that were clients, and now it's actually all of our clients that come in read it because it provides the framework of what we build
Hmm.
on. And then
Hmm.
maybe 2 or 3 years ago, someone gave it to their parents who aren't in recovery but just want to better understand. And every single family member that reads it, at least that comes to me, says, I never knew this was what was going on in their head. I had no idea. Thank you. It's like getting to see what's happening inside the brain, and I better understand it now. Thank you. And I thought, well, that's a cool organic byproduct. I had no idea. So now we tell all the families about it as well.
Yeah, fantastic. And so it'll go on our book list on our website
Oh,
for
awesome.
sure. Yep. And a little bit about the TED Talk. I listened to it this morning. Number one, I love that it's 10 minutes. So anybody can take 10 minutes to listen to this. So just a little bit about that, Mark.
So one of the biggest things, I feel so privileged of getting to be on the inside where I get to see the presenting issues. Everybody comes in thinking they've got a drug or an alcohol problem, but it's not. That's actually a brilliant solution that is highly effective, but it's just the cost becomes way too much on health and family and everything. And so I started learning that. So we work with a lot of veterans. We're about 50% veterans, 50% civilians. And I started seeing this pattern coming up of really, I call it the myth of purpose. And so as people think they either missed purpose or they chose the wrong purpose or all their friends have purpose and they don't, especially with our veterans that say, I had a purpose and it got taken away from me. And it's that mindset that keeps us stuck in that internal prison. And so just by the little tweak that I talk about, I think like minute 8 or something, 6, I don't know, somewhere in there, but it's a little shift. And once I hit that shift, people are able to say, I never viewed it that way. I didn't perceive it that way. And that is the permission. I hear this quite often. That was the permission that I've been looking for. Now I'm able to see this differently. And again, it starts to provide this emotional freedom or emotional liberation that we begin to live as the true versions of us doing what we were put on earth to do.
Right. So brilliant. That's why we do this podcast, is because these little shifts, I can guarantee there were little shifts that took place throughout the conversation that we just had that could potentially change the trajectory of their experience and their life. And so deep gratitude to you.
Well, ditto. Thank you. It definitely takes one to see one. So I appreciate you and what you're doing.
Thank you, everybody. So remember to thrive.